What's up, everybody? It is Kendall here. Welcome back to the Wealthy Legacy Journey this week. Um, I'm really excited for today. I've got a really cool thing to show you guys as far as new content that I'm putting together. I want to share my screen here right quick. For any of those that are watching on YouTube, if you're just listening to the podcast, you'll still be able to get a good gist for what this is. But this is the new Wealthy Legacy Journey resources page. And so I'm really excited to introduce this to you guys. Basically, this is where we're going to be putting all of the resources that we go through. So I was talking with my buddy Kane. As you guys know, I have like a weekly meeting with him on Fridays, and he was like, man, you should really put one place where people can go to find like all the resources. Like, I've got the Dave Ramsey's book report and just some other stuff that I talked about. And right now I'm going through thinking, I'm not thinking rich, through Good to Great by Jim Collins. And so I'm going to have, a report on that. And so just all of that content. And I was like, yeah, that'd be a great idea. And it'd be an awesome way for me to be able to serve you guys. But as you all know, the whole purpose of this channel is how do you start off simple? And so, no intro, no outro, no website, no nothing. And so I was like, well, I can't build a website because, right at this moment, I'm not making enough money from this to fund building a website. And I want to show people that you can do this simply. So what I did is I put it on a Google Doc, and I am going to start dropping the link in every episode towards this. So if you're ever wanting to see like, what are my favorite YouTube videos and podcast episodes and stuff like that, as far as like, investing goes, other educational content like cash flow investment board game that we talked about last week. And I posted all the links for that for like where I got stuff. And there's like a free version online that you can get to. So I posted all those links. The Entre Leadership book, where you can buy it, the Entre Leadership website and all that kind of stuff. So my hope in that is that it's just a really good way to be able to serve y'all at the highest level. And so whether you're on Spotify or you're on YouTube, it's going to be like right there in the description. I'll have a link to that Google Doc, and I don't get paid for those links that are inside of there. It's literally just a way for me to try to serve everybody that's listening to this content at the highest level. So make sure you go to the description, look for that Google Doc link. You'll go there. It's visible to like anybody who has the link, and then you'll be able to go through there and just access any of the content as you want it. So anyways, with that said, let me go ahead and stop my screen share here. And we're going to get back to the episode. So I'm really excited about a couple things that happened this week that I want to talk to you all about. So first off, I want to talk to you guys about two really good conversations that I had this week. So last week, you remember me talking about, self-implemented deadlines that, Dave Ramsey talked about in Entre Leadership and, what that looked like. Well, a conversation ended up coming up at the office with Sergio, who's on Casey's team, just about, what that dynamic looked like. And if y'all remember, I think it was like at the end of my first week there, we had talked about like, hey, we're not going to, dig into weekends. And then, they're like, hey, well, can you make an exception on this one? I thought, well, sure they, this is just my first week on the job, but, I stood my ground. You guys remember how I talked, through that. Well, then during our meeting, we were talking about a few different things. And I just told him, I was like, hey, Sergio, like, I just want to give you a heads up that when I get to my 90-day mark, I'm planning to ask to make more of the spread on the deal. And, that's just my plan. I want to, because at the end of the day, like I'm still self-employed in my mind. So how do I maximize my time, especially on that active income, right? So like I'm in active income. I need to make sure that my time is not, tied to an exact dollar amount. How can I get every hour of my time worth more and more money every, time that I'm actively working? And that allows me to do two things. Number one, it allows me to make more while I'm working, but also it allows me to have the freedom to step away and spend more, direct and intentional time with my family while I'm not working, because, of the time of me like working so, actively was so productive and profitable. So with that said, I let him know, and his first question to me was, well, could you come in, an extra day a week, maybe 2 days a week, to show your commitment? That would really help show some commitment. And right then I was like, okay, we're only a little bit into this, and I'm already asking, I'm already basically, getting asked to work weekends. I'm already, then, they're talking about, hey, can you come up more days a week? And then I look back at my mission statement. This would be a good thing to read right now. And I read this a lot. So, like, if you haven't put your mission statement together from the Dave Ramsey content, make sure that you go do that. In fact, it's on the EntreLeadership website. If you go there, which is going to be on this resource page, let me go ahead and just add a line in here for mission statement. And that way it's on there, and I will go ahead and make sure that that is dropped into, that's dropped in there. So that way y'all can just immediately go fill out that mission statement. Super, super important. But let me get in here and go to mine. So for me, I'll accomplish the impossible within my lifetime with the help of the Lord. I'll also make my family feel like a constant top priority. And for me, working from home 3 days a week really is making my wife feel like a constant top priority versus what I was doing before, where I got into the cycle of working 60, 70, 80 hours, a week plus sometimes. And I literally was like coming home to sleep. And, though I was making good money, she didn't feel loved in that. And, I had to really figure out, like, how do I dial that in, and really make my family, feel loved and feel like I'm being intentional with them. And so, being able to work from home a few days a week, not make, the hour commute 2 ways, just that's really helped that dynamic. So another thing that I want to go through here also is in the second sentence, my journey will consist of strong steps instead of unbalanced leaps within my path toward new heights. Now, when you're hiking a trail or you're, going up a mountain or something like that, you do go up and down, there's valleys that sometimes you go through, but generally you're going up. And so I was really thinking about, basically I've reached this point in my career where, I've learned a lot of things. I've learned a ton. Like, even when I was talking to my surgeon, he's like, you're adding a lot. You're teaching me a lot of different things. I've already helped them to improve, in some ways, their workflow of how they handle leads internally. And so it's like, I'm bringing all this value, but now on the other breath, like, I'm being asked to, do things that, when we initially sat down, like, I wasn't supposed to, like, being asked to, hey, can we come in on the weekends? I'm being asked, can you come in more days a week? And it's like, I already feel like that's going to be most likely the dynamic that's going to come out of this team. And every team operates with different dynamics, and that's okay. But me just being sensitive and aware of that, I really made me start to think like, okay. Now I was really excited because in that conversation, not being a jerk, but I was really confident about my position and about the value that I brought to the team. And I was able to confidently say, like, no, coming in more days a week would not be something that's optional. I know that there's other places that I can go for, big opportunities. So anyways, well, then like a day or two later, Aaron and Carson with the land deals, he came in and basically he was there in the office and I saw him. And so I went there and I started chit chatting with him because we're good friends. I really enjoy Aaron. And I asked him if we could chat. And so we had a few minutes. We had a really good conversation about, I just said, hey, I'm just kind of seeing what my options are. Basically, I'm thinking about, come the beginning of the year, I'll have done this for 90 days. I'll have a good feeling for the team and the dynamic. And, so far there's just been a couple of red flags. What would it look like? Just go ahead and start chewing on it. Cause I really for me, I've learned that it's really important to have big runways. Cause even though you've been thinking about it for a long time, it's important to get everybody thinking about it for a long time. So now I've planted a seed of an idea for Sergio, but then through that conversation with Aaron, I planted a seed of an idea. And now that seed's going to have time to be watered, growed, thought on, mold on. And then, whenever we come to the beginning of the year, we're going to be able to start having more serious conversations. And still, again, my absolute deadline being next summer, nothing may come to fruition for 6-7 months, right? But still, that's giving, hey, let's chew on this for the next 3 months, next 90 days, and see what comes of it. So in your life, like, if you feel like the position that you're in is not taking you upwards, whether it's taking you sideways or downwards, maybe it's time to start planting seeds. And so I would say, where in your life, and really chew on it, think about it. Like I said, I'm not making fast decisions. I've been thinking about this, working with them, what I like and what I don't, what I ethically feel good about and what I ethically don't feel good about in that process, and working with them. And, what it would be, job wise, it's like, here's what I could do with my skill sets. You guys know I have a big skill set. Here's what I can do, feeling like I'm using my skill set well. And here's what, I can't do. feeling like I'm not using my skill set in a way that honors, glorifies the Lord. And so, anyways, we had a really, really good conversation about that. And I'm excited to see what comes to fruition over the next 90 days. So, with that said, my challenge to anybody listening to this right now is what seeds can you be planting if you need to plant seeds? Really, I guess first step would be strategically look at your life. Are you going upwards in the path that you're on right now, or are you kind of stuck somewhere that you've already been before, or you've just kind of been in this place, or even worse, are you going down from a previous high? And if you're going sideways, you're going down, it's time to probably ask yourselves what seeds can you plant that maybe in the next 90 to 180 days could grow into a potential opportunity that can start taking you back on an upward trajectory. And something I'll say too is like you can't just define upward trajectory by dollars, right? If you're doing a job that you get paid the same amount as a job that you got paid, a couple years ago, but you absolutely love your job and the job that you had before you didn't enjoy at all, that's an upward trajectory. And maybe even for some people, if you're getting paid less, but you're doing a job that you enjoy 10 times more, you hated what you did before, you love what you do now, you're getting paid a little bit less, but you're able to cover all your bills and then some. And so like you're still, solid financially, that's still a win. So you have to define what does upward trajectory look like, but just make sure that you're continuing to go up. So those two conversations, I'm excited to, continue to tell you guys how those conversations, what kind of fruit is produced from those. Now, what I will say is I left that conversation with Sergio, and even if my conversation with Aaron starts to go somewhere, I'm going to bring every ounce of value that I can to Sergio and to Casey in that team for as long as I am there. Because number one, the thing that gets you the furthest in this game of investing, I know for sure for real estate, but I've heard it from other types of investors as well, is relationships. And so at the end of the day, I want to leave Casey's team and Sergio's, process that he's trying to build for Casey 10 times better than whenever I came in because of all the value that I was able to add. So does me feeling like this is not the biggest and best opportunity for me in my life mean that I'm going to give it half of my effort? Absolutely not. I'm still going to give it 110%. I'm still going to look, how can I serve? How can I add value? Because you never know in the long run how that's going to be able to come back and be a blessing and a benefit. And but either way, like that's just how we're supposed to live. So that's kind of that in a nutshell. I also wanted to tell you guys last week, I was thinking back on the episode and I really was realizing like I was getting really excited about the stocks in that episode, talking about how my next book might be, researching like how to evaluate stocks and stuff like that. And while I do find that stuff fascinating, after some reflection, following that episode, I just kind of thought, that is probably not the way to be, committed to being an interdependent and dedicated tortoise. Going from right now, my whole path is real estate, real estate, real estate, real estate. And then, hey, I'm going to take, a large amount of my time, energy, and effort and go into how do I value stocks? So that would not be a wise thing. It might be a good thing for some people, but for me right now, I know I have better opportunities on, this front. So let me continue on this front. So I'll let you guys know. I still think it's super interesting stuff. I've still done some research. I even have some videos or a video series uploaded on the Wealthy Legacy Journey resources about how to analyze financial statements like a hedge fund manager. And there's like 3 different videos for different aspects. And I thought it was really interesting. It's videos that I'm going to have to watch once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, really chew on and consume and mull on the information to really understand it. I want to understand it to the point that I could turn around and teach it. But anyways, so with that said, I'm going to just read here my notes. It receives less than 10% of my time, and I consider it more of a hobby. So for Libby and I, we don't watch TV during the week. We might watch like a show on the evening on a weekend. Some weekends, but we have a strict rule that we don't watch TV during the week. We don't even have a TV. So we would just like watch on our phone or our computer, but we only allow ourselves to watch it on the weekends. We also don't have social media. We've been off social media for a few months, which if you are on social media, I would recommend at least trying it. We've been off, like I said, for like 2 months now, I think. It has been so healthy, so awesome to be kind of free of the junk that's on social media. We've loved it. So maybe worth trying. But in the evening, we'll do things like we'll read books, we'll consume educational content, or we'll just kind of think quietly. We have a time that we talk every night and just hang out together. And we really just have like intentional time for ourselves and then intentional time together in our marriage every evening. About an hour for personal time, maybe an hour and a half. And then we have about an hour together. And so that's been really healthy. Um, but I just wanted you guys to know my focus is still real estate, and most likely, actually, I recall what I said last week, and that's a part of just being raw and real in these videos. Is last week I got excited, but then after really thinking about it and looking at my mission statement, going, yeah, that's probably a little bit of an unbalanced leap. It's not the strongest step I can take forward. Reading, a book on stocks. After going from leadership books, like I could go maybe read like an investment book, a general investment book, a real estate book, something about, like one of the books that I have that I want to read again is How to Win Friends and Influence People. That I absolutely love that book. Go through that again because my job right now is in sales. So that's a very important aspect of what I do. I probably need to sharpen my skill set in that area. So there's lots of other content that I consume that I could consume that could make me better in what I'm doing right now. And so that's what I need to stay focused on. So I just want to let you guys know that about the real estate thing. Now, the last thing is this past week, I've read a couple more chapters of the Good to Great book by Jim Collins. So I'm hoping that I've got maybe like another week or two inside of that book. I'm not the world's fastest reader by any stretch of the imagination, but I have started to learn how to enjoy it. The content's really good, but sitting there, using my brain power to read, it's just not it's not a natural instinct for me, but I'm working on it. I want to improve in that area because I know there's a ton of value to get out of reading. You hear all the time, readers are leaders. So it's like, okay, if all these successful people are saying things like that, probably time for me to listen and apply that to my life and find what are the good books that I can read that are going to help get me to the next level. So, anyways, one of the things that's been so powerful in the Good to Great book that Jim Collins has talked about a few times is that you've got to get the right people on the right seat of the bus. And he mentioned something, and basically, like, I'm starting to kind of come to this realization, like, my job as a leader isn't to motivate people. My job is to get the right people in the right places of the bus and then to empower them in that role. And my job is to make sure that in everything I do, I am not demotivating my team. And basically, he's talking about if you have the right people will be motivated. But if you have the wrong people, you have to motivate them. But once you find the right people who are motivated, you have to make sure you do the right things so that you avoid accidentally demotivating your team, like putting limits on them, holding them back, whatever. And I kind of read through that and I was like, wow, like the biggest thing that I've always been scared of with hiring people was I'm going to basically like pay somebody and then I'm going to have to figure out like, what are they going to do? Right. Like how, how am I going to be able to pay their paycheck? Like, right now I'm making like more money than I need. But at the end of the day, like if I'm having to support two people, well, now we've got to make money even faster. So I'm gonna have to figure out like all these different ways to make money. And I kind of sat back and I realized like, wow, if I hire the right people, if I really take, I think Dave Ramsey's hiring process like 12 steps. If I really take my time to find the right person to hire, they will be a motivated person. And I even thought, I could probably tell them, like, look, I'm going to keep you busy 90% of the time. 90% of your week, you're going to be busy. The other 10% of your time, I want you to go out and figure out new ways that is in line with our mission statement for our company to make money. Look for new deal types, new deal silos is what we call them. Look for, maybe it's like different JV partners, like whatever it is, maybe different ways just to improve our workflow and our system. If you're like, man, I feel like this is kind of broken right here. Hey, spend 10% of your week, like 4 or 5 hours working on how do we make that piece of the business better so we can make the whole business better. We can make the whole process better. And, I just kind of thought like, okay, so my job this next go around is going to be, as I build into that next opportunity, it's good just to mull on this stuff well ahead of time. I shouldn't be afraid of the hiring process. Well, I'd say it this way. If I don't hire correct, the hiring process is going to absolutely be detrimental to my business, and my ability to be able to get things done. But if I really take my time on the hiring process and I make sure that I find the right person, one or two people to join me on my team, we can all go to the next level together. So it's all about finding the right people. And that's been powerful for me so far. So I'm about halfway through the book, and that's some of the big stuff that I've gotten from the book. The last thing that I want to talk about today, and this was so powerful for me in the Good to Great book. Um, Basically, Jim Collins talks about this thing he calls the Stockdale Paradox. And basically, in this, he met up with Admiral, what's his first name? Admiral Stockdale, and he was in a prisoner of war camp for 8 years in Vietnam. I think this was a really admirable thing, and that he did, and the sacrifice he made. So I want to honor him. Let me find his name here. Admiral Jim Stockdale. Yeah, I was thinking with Jim, but I was like, well, Jim Collins, I'm getting the mixed up. So Admiral Jim Stockdale, who shot down in Vietnam. He was at a prisoner of war camp, one of the worst ones. I think it was like Hanoi High or something like that during the Vietnam War. I think he was there for 8 years, and he was tortured like over 20 times. Made an incredible sacrifice. But this is basically a quote from the book talking about the Stockdale Paradox, and you should read the book. Like this part here, this is on page 86, but like the story that Admiral Stockdale talked about and his mindset coming out of that difficult situation was absolutely incredible. And it was really powerful for me. But here's one little blip that I want you guys to be able to consume from this. Quote, you must retain faith that you will prevail in the end, and you must also confront the most brutal facts of your current reality. Quote, that's on page 86. And during Jim Collins' interview with Admiral Stockdale, he said, I wish I had the book with me, but basically he said something along the lines of like, who are the ones that didn't make it? And the Admiral said it was the optimists. And Mr. Collins was like, he said that confused him at first, and I understood because what I had just read, like I was a little bit confused too, because Admiral Stockdale always kept faith that they were going to get out, and the Admiral went on to continue to say, basically the guys that said we'll be out by Christmas, and then Christmas came, and they said, well, we'll be out by Easter, and Easter would come, and they say, okay, well, we'll be out by Thanksgiving. And then the next Christmas would roll around, and he said those men would die of a broken heart because they'd lost hope. So he goes, for him, he said you couldn't look, forward to the next Christmas, but you had to have faith that you will make it out. So, and that really helps protect your mindset. And I realized, like, over the last few years, I've been really bad about that, saying like, but 2024 is going to be our year. 2025 is going to be our year where we're going to hit 1 million. We're going to hit these big numbers. And I realized, like, okay, I have to have this like unwavering faith, retaining the faith that you'll prevail in the end. Like, I know that I'm going to build wealth and I'm going to build a legacy, but setting a date on that or a time like that is only going to end up crushing me in the end if I'm not able to make that goal. Now, that's not to say that you can't set, deadlines for yourself, self-imposed deadlines like Dave Ramsey talks about. So I must see this, but that's more of a minimum. Like at a minimum, I have to see this or it's not worth it for me to continue. That's really healthy. But I think it's that dream reality of like, wow, for me, it's like, okay, I only need X to live, but I really want to hit 1 million. So if I go, hey, I'm going to hit $1 million, I don't know exactly when, but I'm going to hit $1 million. And everything I do, I'm going to, I'm aiming towards how do I get that $1 million, to be able to earn that. Then that's one mindset. But another mindset of saying like, okay, I'm going to hit $1 million in the next 6 months. Okay, I'm going to hit that, and then 6 months goes by and okay, I'm going to hit it in the next 6 months. And then that 6 months goes by and you're like, no, but okay, but this time around is completely different. Like I am going to hit it this time around in the next 6 months. Like you keep pushing the ball down the court until eventually like you have no energy left to push that ball down any further because it's like you missed your goal. So we talked about how optimists are always looking towards Christmas. Will often die of a broken heart. And so for you and your wealthy legacy journey, and for me, make sure that you're not looking forward to the next, quote unquote Christmas, not actual Christmas, but according to that story, the next market that you're putting a timeline in your head, but yes, but by this point I'll be there, but instead just say, I'm going to continue to take steps in the right direction. And it might take me, whatever your goal is, it might take you a month or 6 months, or if it's a big goal, it might take you a year or 6 years, but you'll get there. Right. And so that's something for me that I've been really chewing on is like, okay, how do I set more of, I'm just going to make sure I continue taking the right steps forward. And I know that if I, consume this good content of the books that I'm reading and stuff like that, if I stay accountable to the things that, I'm trying to do with the Wealthy Legacy Journey and I'm talking to you guys about, and, I continue to do these things well, I will get there. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'll get there. You know, I think it is healthy to set realistic goals, like we've talked about, taking the money and multiplying it out at the tax sales. That is a quantifiable, data driven number that I see that, okay, we can flip this for that and we can flip it. And I know based on what I've done in real estate in the past that, to buy something and then have it on the market for about 90 days, if you have it priced right, in this market, you should be able to have it sold in 90 days. And so I know, okay, if I'm able to flip my money about 3 or 4 times, that means I'm going to have to price right and I'm going to have to buy right. If I buy right and I price right to be able to flip it about my money, 3 to 4 times about every 90 to 120 days, that's very reasonable. But it came to that conclusion because of quantifiable data that I have from the past, not just, a hope that's not really hinged on anything, empirical, anything, no data driven. It's just kind of like, well, I kind of hope that would happen. So yeah, that's what I've gotten this week. Good to great. Like I said, about halfway through it. Great book. I would highly recommend that anybody reads it. Whenever I'm done with it, we'll do the book report. I'll plug in all the links and stuff where to get it. I got half price books because right now Libby and I are in a huge like season of how do we save money and be wiser with our finances. But I will post the link to Amazon and stuff like that, and Barnes Noble, so y'all can get it once we've got that going. But if you just look it up, you'll be able to find it. But yeah, so those conversations are really good. Thinking about what the next book will be, most likely it's going to be Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, just for a good reminder. That's been one that keeps coming to mind. It's like, okay, I think that might be a good one. So that's kind of really what my thought process is going towards for the next book. And then lastly, I just want to remind everybody that we've got the Google Docs link that's going to be below in the YouTube video, and on Spotify, it'll be in the description, however you get to the description. But make sure you go check that out. And like I said, it's going to have a bunch of great YouTube videos. It's going to have, links to the books and, book reports as we get those put together. And you'll also have other educational content like the cash flow board game from Robert Kiyosaki, which for me comes in like a week. I'm so pumped about that. It's either going to be like somewhere between tomorrow and next Tuesday. So I'm super excited for that. And once I get to play that a little bit, I will introduce that to you guys and stuff like that. So anyways, it has been awesome talking with you guys. Make sure that you go check out the Wealthy Legacy Journey resources Google document. And with that said, I will see you guys next week. And in closing, again, this is another episode that is really devoted to you and your own personal wealthy legacy journey. So go out there, figure out how to plant those seeds so you can start moving ahead in the next 90, 180 days, whatever it is, if you're not already moving in the right direction. If you are, continue moving that way, with strong steps instead of unbalanced leaps. That would be my challenge to you guys. So it's been awesome hanging out with y'all, and I will see y'all next week.